Okay, hello everyone. Hello, hello, hello. We are back for another Can We Talk Executive Conversations. My name is Tamiko Drummond, your host, and I'm gonna shoot it over to my co-host, Lawrence Henderson. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
What is going on, Tamiko, and everybody out there in live land? Don't y'all love Tamiko's energy? Every time we come on, she's about to do a backflip virtually. I absolutely love it. And so, y'all, what is going on to Can We Talk Executive Conversations? I'm Lawrence Henderson, another hostess with the mostest, and we have an amazing panelist with us today. Another leader ready to rock the mic. We have Mr. Tom Lamendola. What is going on, sir? How are you?
I'm great. That was a great intro right there. That reminded me of a couple of movies not too long ago. So I appreciate it. Happy to be live with y'all. Thanks for having me.
My absolute
Welcome.
pleasure. And so, before we get rolling, just to tell you a little bit about Tom. Tom is a graduate from St. Bonaventure University in upstate New York. Got a New Yorker in the house, Tamiko. Completing his undergraduate and graduate degrees in 5 successive years. Lord have mercy on his soul for doing that to himself. Prior to joining Financial Independence Group, Tom was responsible for strategic and tactical management of two separate privately held recruiting firms. As an executive director and managing partner of two firms, respectively, Tom led all business management, sales, marketing, client delivery, and talent selection programs. And as a vested member of the executive teams, Tom's experience identifying, hiring, and motivating the next generation of producers for his firms ultimately led to his success, as well as the succession of each firm. We got us a heavy hitter, folks. We about to have a
Too
conversation.
kind.
Yeah, so I know there's a lot inside and unpacking your bio, Tom. But if you could just tell the folks a little bit about yourself, and a couple meaningful things to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate the intro I got to give a shout out to everybody at the back up in St. Bonaventure. We seem to have like almost a little bit of a cultic following, I guess. Once people hear about it, it's usually because of the NCAA tournament, but born and raised in Western New York, about an hour and a half outside of St. Bonaventure, and then moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina in 1999, where I thought I'd come down here and make my millions in 2 or 3 years, and then move back home to where I grew up. But a fast 23 years later, and I'm still here rocking North Carolina and loving every minute of it. We actually live here in Cornelius, North Carolina, which is where FIG is also headquartered. The wife, Shannon, who is also a St. Bonaventure grad, a couple of years behind me, actually. And then we have 3 kids, Dylan, Joe, and Olivia, and then our dog, Charlie. So certainly love living here in North Carolina. Love going back home as well, too, so long as it's either summertime or Christmas time. But for the most part, we'd much rather stick it here. And definitely enjoy just being on a show like this with you all. I know, Lawrence, when we caught up, just leadership and culture and coaching is certainly a passion of mine. One of the things you mentioned there in my intro is my background hasn't always been in marketing, is actually in talent and recruitment. And that's always near and dear to my heart. Guess you don't realize that stuff when you're growing up. But as you get here into a 20+ year professional, you do truly realize how important it is to have talented folks on your team, especially as a leader. They definitely make you look good as they're doing all that heavy lifting for you.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, Tom went in and named the dogs, everything. Tom and the kids. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, Tom, I thank you so much for being on the show with us today. I wanted to ask you, since for your career, did you have any leaders or mentors that helped you to be where you are at today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say even before my career, I feel like you're always kind of shaped by those that you grow up with at an early age. So before even going into college, I guess I credit a lot of my development and leadership to some of the coaches and leaders that I came across, and I was fortunate enough, I guess, to have to inspire me. It's interesting, I'd learned a statement not too long ago that I guess people can't be motivated. They can be inspired to get motivated, to motivate themselves. And so when I heard that was actually just a couple of months ago, I really reflected upon so many of the folks that I had come across in really my youth, and a lot of people that did. I thought they were motivating me, but they just knew the right inspirational tactics, I guess, for me to get motivation myself. And then as you move on through your career, mostly in the banking days, I had a couple of mentors. One of the very first mentors that I ever had taught me another really profound thing, especially coming out of school, which was in order to be in sales and in order to be in recruitment, you have to be resilient. And, Lawrence, you and I talked a little bit about this when you were on my podcast not too long ago as well, too, is one of the key, I think, characteristics for anybody is we come across so many obstacles in life, in sports, certainly in our professional career. It's really easy to live in the negative, and that negative seems to perpetuate itself and get picked up by others so quickly that if you can just remember to be resilient, and that, it's got to get dark before it gets light again. You come out of that with some resiliency and you start to figure out, okay, what do I need to do next to be successful? How do I make sure, how do I anticipate that obstacle doesn't catch me off guard again? So that, I'm better prepared, I guess. And, I think that, and the other thing I would say is just continue to challenge that status quo. I had another mentor, Tamiko, that really said, hey, what I like about you, Tom, is that you're not afraid to challenge the status quo. I think I'd relate that back to probably my religious youth or my religious roots as a kid with doubting Thomas, making sure that I'm challenging everything for St. Thomas there. But that those two specifically, between resiliency and challenging that status quo to help evolve and push forward whatever team you're leading, are important to me for sure.
I absolutely love that. And again, it's funny you bring up kind of the resilience part of the world we live in today. And I'm always reminded of kind of the serenity prayer, right? And understanding what I can change and what I'm in control of, and those things that I can't, give me the wisdom to know the difference so I don't spend energy somewhere. And when you think about just your background, Tom, and you think about what's needed in today's organizations, what are the most important decisions that leaders within organizations today need to focus on?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things is, and it's something that has always been there, but I feel like it is gaining so much traction and steam right now, which is purpose. We hear it all the time as people want to have purpose. And, we have the great resignation that's squarely upon us. And primarily it's because people are looking for a purpose. We were all able to kind of take a step back and reflect a little bit over the past 2 years and appreciate maybe some of our downtime, our working from home, and realizing that other things are out there. We don't just have to kind of go back to that challenging the status quo. We don't just have to do the Fred Flintstone every day. Every morning you wake up, you pull the whistle, you get in the car. It's all the same thing over and over again. But now people truly want that purpose. And I think all of us as leaders today, we always knew that, but now it is front and center. And so when we're making decisions for our companies, when we're making decisions for the clients or the stakeholders that we work with and that we serve and support, it's always about that purpose. What is the person that you're talking with or working with or trying to lead? What's their purpose? Finding out what that purpose is, and then making sure you can lead them to be successful within that purpose. Or, Lawrence, really kind of make that tough decision. It might not be right for you. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more often is both team members, employees, as well as leaders, coaches, whatever it might be. You're starting to see folks make decisions that are saying, this just really isn't right for me. We see it in the sports industry across the board. Never before has been so many folks asking for trades and just deciding to, and maybe not necessarily play for a team. And then on the flip side, you're finding teams and owners that would have never let go of talent, a couple of years ago. They would have continued to pay them, but if it's not a right fit, if they're not fulfilling that purpose, they're letting those folks go or letting them explore other opportunities. And I think we as leaders in the professional world have to be really serious about that as well, too. It hurts to lose good talent. I mentioned how important talent is to me and certainly to every business leader. So when you let somebody go, and I don't mean let them go with cause, where it's just like, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't right for you. That is a tough pill to swallow. But everybody is better for it when you do finally swallow that pill. The team members better for it. And then hopefully if you're able to replace them, even in today's challenging recruiting world, you're not losing so much time or other resources trying to replace that individual.
That's good. So, Tom, within your organization, you talked about purpose, right? So, what's more important, the mission, the vision, or the core values?
That's a tough one. That's one that probably should have been teed up so I could have answered that. I could take the easy way out, and I could say that all of them are equally important. But what I truly believe is that mission is the most important. You know, that when you talk about purpose, another synonym that would go along with it is focus. And we are distracted so easily. And vision can be almost too visionary if you're not in the right place, you know, with the right culture. But a mission should be simple. You know, what is your mission? Here at FIG, it's empowering financial professionals. For us, now we can align every resource, everything we have, and align it with how we help empower financial professionals. That's real simplistic. It's real pointed, but it's easy. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy to get aligned with. We just really relaunched our mission, but it is ultimately king, you know, and we have to make sure that we're all aligned to what that mission is. It's like I said, it's easy to get distracted. And I think if you're with a visionary that maybe doesn't know how to implement or integrate the vision or integrate or align with the mission, you can find yourself kind of meandering through the business world a little bit too long, and things aren't just getting done, basically. So at the end of the day, Tamiko, I guess where I would go with it is, you know, that to me, and I think to hear everybody here at FIG, mission is number one, just to keep that focus and alignment for everyone.
Man, you teed that one up for me, Tamiko. I'm about to come off top rope with one. And I heard it, Tom, and thank you so much. And I was hoping you stayed in the pocket on that one. And you did. I heard it like this: the mission shouldn't change, but the method can, and how you achieve the mission. Sure. And so at FIG, and again, your philosophy, if you will impart us a little bit, how do you encourage that creativity within your organization to support meeting the mission?
Yeah. And so the first thing I say is it's not easy, you know, creativity, especially as a leader of a marketing team. And I'll speak for hopefully all marketers and all marketing leaders will understand where I'm coming from. In fact, I just came from a conference where we talked about this rather frequently, because it's a challenge for a lot of marketing leaders, which is you have highly talented, creative-minded individuals. The challenge is, though, and Tamiko, you could probably relate to this given your background and you know what you do in your day job, so to speak here, but it's getting the creative folks to understand that call to action of what the sale is. You know, well, creative folks want to create, and they want to experiment, and we want them to, especially in marketing. But at the end of the day, that experiment, that design, that content, whatever it might be that you're working on, still has to drive sales. And what sometimes you can see is a divergence happens where somebody wants to get super creative and they have really awesome designs and really awesome promotional materials. But did we ever ask for the business? You know, what was that call to action clearly defined, and was it motivating or inspirational enough to get someone to actually do what we're trying to get them to do? So that to me is the biggest challenge when you talk about creativity, Lawrence. And I think that the other piece of that, which is it kind of goes along with the purpose and a challenge that we face as business leaders, but everybody should really get on this bus sooner rather than later, is transparency. The more transparent you can be with your team members and your employees, the more aligned they're going to be with that mission. If you're playing it close to the vest, kind of which was the old school, especially from a privately held company, you know, which is what FIG is, we don't really have the obligation to report earnings or revenue or anything like that whatsoever. So, hey, as long as the door's open and the lights are on, you should all know that we're doing well at FIG. But at the end of the day, if we want folks to be more aligned with our mission, we have to communicate to them what that means. How are we doing? What are our revenue targets? What's sales team accountable for? What is the marketing team accountable for? What are the strategic initiatives that we're working on together to push the entity forward? And so, you know, I think just to give you a more simplistic, shorter answer to that, it would be transparency. You know, that to me is how you can inspire creativity, is be transparent with what we're trying to accomplish, and then also be transparent with how the company is going to accomplish those targets or goals.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much for that, Tom. Now, you mentioned that you had a background in recruiting. So I want to know, how do you help a new employee understand the culture of your organization?
Yeah, it's not easy. I would say that, you know, that's for sure, especially because culture can be one of those things like the core values. You know, you put it in your wallet and then you never talk about it again. You couldn't recite them unless you whip the card out of the wallet again. So what we try to do, and what I try to do, is we try to get them indoctrinated with other team members right from the jump. basically, and so we want to make sure that not only are they working with folks here inside of our marketing department, but we also have orientation with all of our senior leadership. So sometime within your first 30 to 60 days as a new team member of FIG, you're going to sit down with every C-level executive in the firm and every D-level executive inside of the firm. You're also going to go through that with the same class, basically. So it's this, anytime we onboard a new pool of new talent to the organization, that same pool, depending on your start date, will go through the orientation. And so we try to get them indoctrinated into the culture to get to know us as people by just what I said before, being transparent. So, when you sit down with me, you're going to hear it all, the good, the bads, and the ugly, as far as who Tom Lamendola is and was, and how I grew up and how I got to FIG and what my style is. And I know every other leader at FIG does the exact same thing. So we try to make sure that they're hearing it from us, and that it's real. That transparency is, we don't just kind of talk the talk, but we also walk it at the same time. So when you get to know us as a leadership team and as an organization, we truly are who we say we are, and we do what we say we do.
Yeah. And I, we had a thorough conversation about this walking the walk thing.
That's right.
And so here's the deal. And again, this executive conversations. Have there been moments where some leaders at the top, just in your past, I'm not saying at FIG or any place else, I ask it this way: how have you managed to help your peers, help other leaders sign up to be doers of what they say they are, and not just, kind of talkers about what they say they're supposed to be about?
Yeah. So undoubtedly, I've come across people like that, and I would even say, I'll raise my hand as one of those people. Sometimes you have to look in the mirror and say, hold on a second, I said something, but I didn't necessarily do what I said I was going to do. Or, I didn't do anything at all when I communicated that. And I think that is where, just leading by example and being that servitude leader is so important, because even those that are above you or on your same peer line, and FIG specifically, we really look at ourselves as a flat organization, but people do have to make decisions. We have individuals that are in decision-making positions, and that's important. But the easiest way to lose culture real quickly and to lose individuals is by not leading by example, and so being accountable to raise your hand like I just did and say, hey, you know what, that one was on me. I communicated something, or I didn't. In my case, I often think that I communicated something to a certain group of folks, and maybe I didn't. And so having to revisit that and say, I get that was on me. I was under the impression that you did, understand that communication, or that I did communicate with you. In reality, it may not have happened. So I would say, that may be a little bit too general for you, Lawrence, but it is infectious. We talk about negativity is infectious. So is positivity. And so as you continue to lead by example, and you carry yourself the way that you say you're going to carry yourself and get the things done, at the end of the day, people are going to follow. Or it goes back to, like we talked about, we probably got to figure out a different place for them. And that's leaders, that's team members, all levels inside of the organization. Fit is so important. When we talk about fit and alignment and function and focus and then mission, if any of that stuff starts to fall out of misstep at any level of the organization, it comes down to examples, and are you doing it and leading by example?
I love it. Raising your hand and looking at yourself in the mirror. A lot of time leaders do not do that. And so thank you for being that type of leader that keeps your own self accountable. I wanted to ask, what do you think one of the biggest challenges are for leaders today?
I think just that, I think the fear of making a mistake, it's so compounded these days, because, and this across the board. There was a time not too long ago where you could make a mistake and nobody knew about it. Now, when you make a mistake, it's on every social media platform. It's on emails. The entire company knows about it. Your kids know about it, and then depending on who and high up or low you are, it doesn't matter. Everybody has a platform, and there's so many more eyeballs on you. So I think, us being out there saying, okay, we have to be perfect. We have to be perfect. That could delay it a little bit. That could delay you achieving your strategic initiatives or your goals, because of that fear of making a mistake, because of the eyeballs that are on you. You know, like I said, there was a time not too long ago where you made a mistake, and okay, maybe you and other folks internally knew about it. You're able to pick yourself up, like we said about resiliency, dust yourself off and go back after the strategic initiative. Gosh, you know, depending on where you are, if you make the mistake now, it's fatal. Now, of course, if you're making an unethical, mistake, that's a whole different story. But I'm just talking about in the normal course of business and decision making that we all have the accountability and responsibility for. You do sometimes take a step back, and again, Tamiko, I raise my hand for that. You know, sometimes you want to put things out because you feel like you know the answer to that. You want to put a post on one of the social media outlets. You want to send an email out, whatever it might be. But you do check yourself for a minute and say, I need to make sure that all of my facts are checked, because I know that if I'm not checking them, somebody else is 100% going to check them these days. So it does give you that little bit of pause and hesitation. You may argue, okay, well, that's a good thing. It could be. But sometimes, you know, that hesitation in decision making and leadership, if you hesitate too long, then your competition sneaks into that gap in time, and, you know, and takes that client or that idea from you.
Right. That is so true. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Yeah. So with that being said, because again, as I study and I look at all these problem statements as I'm in my second year of my organizational leadership PhD program, that thing you just described, Tom, is coming up so much, where we're seeing these extremes in the workplace, which is causing people to not to want to raise their hand for leadership roles.
Yeah.
And so for you, how do you mentor and advise the next generation of leader to step up?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you asked that. So I would take this a step back and say, have the conversation. And I just look at my kids. You know, it's so easy as a parent to, at least for me, growing up as a Western New Yorker and of an Italian ethnic family grow up, that it's easy for me to yell at them and say, hey, and go right to what they did wrong. But you're missing a coaching opportunity right there. You're missing an opportunity to kind of get in with them and understand what they're feeling, what they're thinking, and why they're making such decisions. And so I've been trying to call myself out a little bit more with my kids on the development of them. As I just had this conversation with my son the other day where he was pretty bummed out, and I basically had to tell him, hey, listen, you only get this day in 2022 once. So you can choose to be in the negative and be real bummed out the rest of today, but you're never getting it back. I think it was May 2nd or something like that. I said May 2nd, 2022, you're only going to get one of them your whole life. And you're never going to really realize this as a 12-year-old kid. But as you start to grow up and you start to be 45 and 50, you start to realize those days are starting to get numbered and you only have one of them. So I would say, how do we make sure that we're doing these types of things and have those coachable opportunities is just that. Sometimes don't go right into that. Hey, I'm going to tell you, what to do or what you should have done, but I'm going to start to learn and understand your perspective on it. Why did you make that decision? And because I may be dead wrong, so I'm looking at this world through a completely different lens that you are. So let's collab for a minute, and let's figure out what's the best solution, because your perspective could be completely different than mine, and open my mind a little bit. So you and I talk about this, Lawrence, a ton in our show, which was, let's have that coachable moment. Let's start to ask those driving questions and then jointly come to the solution. So easier said than done. Like I said, to check yourself and say, oh, hey, I have 25 years of experience, so I'm going to tell you the way to do it. That's the easy route. The hard route is to take a step back and ask those types of questions, hopefully give that coachable moment so that you can develop that future leader.
Tom, let me ask you, because, marketing is changing. Everyone's talking about Web3 and the metaverse and all these different things and buying up land in the metaverse. So right. What is your organization doing to I don't know, stay abreast of that? Are you utilizing some of the tools to help the clients in that particular way?
Well, we're not, hopefully our chief distribution officer listens to this podcast, because I think he's already in the meta. It seems like everything he talks about with us is about the metaverse, and he's usually pretty close on those predictions. So I'm sure that all the crazy stuff that he cooks up aren't too far away, but we're not quite there yet, Tamiko. So we're not into the meta world now. In financial advice, in financial services, notoriously, we are way behind the curve when it comes to marketing, basically, so
Wow.
it's for a lot of reasons, but the primary one is always because of the impact or the delay that a compliance team may have on a financial professional's content getting out there into the universe, whatever that universe might be. So the way that we stay ahead of the curve really is we are constantly trying to learn on what's out there inside of the marketplace, but that's also executable on our side. And so, for instance, we are super deep into data right now, and how can we look at data to make decisions? So, we're not necessarily gonna code the next insurance, marketplace inside of the metaverse just yet, but we are, and we just came off a call earlier today where we want to be able to provide our financial professionals that we work with the data of, say, where digitally does your prospect go to find you first? Because as I mentioned that, we're a little bit late to the curve when it comes time for marketing. And so if we can get advisors and life insurance agents to understand that you do need to have a digital presence or you're going to lose the day to the competition, we have to make sure that we're going out there and researching that data and then showing them what those benchmarks and best practices are. So that's the best that I could tell you is we are extremely entrenched in understanding the data and then trying to use that data to help our clients make decisions.
I'm so glad you brought up data, Tom. I'm so glad. So I'm gonna get some off my chest really, really fast, y'all. So bear with me. If one more non-data driven person gets in my direct message, my DMs, talking about how you can support me, and you got 3 followers, and all of a sudden, and no shade on anybody who just got good genes, but you look 12. Talking about you a marketing guru and you could give me lead generation guarantee. So how do you, in this world today where everybody goes to YouTube University and everything else, how do you all stay relevant as an organization?
Yeah, and so what I would say is just along that, when we were fell victim to that, just like everybody else did, especially in 2020. It's when everybody, we always joke around, but it was for real. When every pizza delivery person, shoe salesperson, whatever it was, all of a sudden everybody was a marketer overnight because you could be. But what I think we all learned really quickly was A, that not everybody was tested, tried, and true. But I think B, we also learned that the buyer tendencies based on industry are completely different depending on the sector that you support. And so the way that we try to stay relevant is really twofold. The first is if we are working with an outside third-party vendor partner that we're recommending to anybody on the marketing side specifically, we're making sure that they are only inside of financial services. That's not to say that there's not cross-sectional types of marketing firms that can, do branding or do marketing across different industries. But Tamiko, I think you even mentioned yourself that you don't work with financial services, and there's probably a reason why. And maybe it's subject matter expertise, maybe it's how hard it is to get things through compliance. But the point of the story is we try to make sure that in our world, it's so important that there's successful in the results. And I'll get to the data side here in a second, success in the results, that we don't have the time for someone to learn financial services. Hopefully the vendors that we're working with have already learned that. Now, of course, they're still going to make their mistakes and they're still going to experiment. And there's going to be, a lower ROI versus a higher ROI, depending on the specific funnel that we're running. But that leads into the second really conversation, Lawrence, is that we take a look at, you'll hear me say this over and over again if you ever hear me speak, return on investment is an awesome financial metric. And then some people might argue it is the most important. But what I'd say is inside of return on investment, there are multiple key performance indicators that you can list out and track those to make smaller tweaks inside of your business that have a big effect on return on investment. And so we kind of get blinded by this ROI. What's the ROI? What's the ROI? What's the ROI? We have to diagnose the marketing funnel and your sales process to really understand, okay, was it the ROI or was there a chink in your armor somewhere along the process that you weren't necessarily following? So that's the two areas, is we make sure we work with specialized firms if we don't do it here in-house. And then the second part is as far as data goes, we've even started to scale it down or peel it back a little bit into the key performance indicator level to make sure we can make smaller tweaks on the iterations of their marketing.
They see that's you start talking sexy to me when you start talking about that kind of stuff, right? That's the part I love, because as a, again, and Tamiko will tell you, like, if the Kool-Aid, if I saw you make it and it looked like it tastes good, I'm gonna drink it. I might try it. But when you start peeling back, like, see, like, if you follow the program and you weave and you made adjustments along the way based on data collection and all the rest of these things, make it make sense, right? And so I'm so glad you said that. Thank you.
Yeah. like I said, easier said than done sometimes, because it's hard for us all. Sometimes we want to hit the easy button. If we know a process or a system works, quote unquote, just because it does, we may just, keep doing it. But man, if we could diagnose it and really start to understand what those indicators are that makes the process work, gosh, think how profitable we'd all be when it comes to that.
Right. Tom, as we're about to close in a moment, but I wanted to ask you this, because you are director of marketing for FIG. Now, I'm sure you're developing leaders in your organization. So what advice would you give someone or resources would you give someone who's becoming a new leader?
Yeah, I think that and we're not quite there at FIG, although we are starting to explore this. But one of the areas you all started this conversation asking me about is the value of a mentor and the value of a coach. And so, what I would say to anybody who is interested in leadership, trying to become a leader, has been a leader, or currently is a leader, is go find yourself a mentor and or a coach that you can trust, that you can rely upon. And they don't even need to be inside of your same company, your same business. Find somebody that, you can trust and that will help just be another set of eyeballs. Sometimes and we talk about asking the right coaching questions, just being able to just talk with somebody and let them hear it from and then give you a different perspective can be extremely valuable in your overall development. Who do we know that doesn't have a coach? Let's put it that way. From the 3-year-olds all the way up to the 100-year-olds, everybody has or had a coach in their lifetime that meant something to them.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And well said, kind of as a grounding statement for this conversation today. So, Tom, I thank you so much for just giving this the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, I'm telling you, there's so much breadth and depth to Tom as a leader and as a person, but just extremely grateful that you chose us this evening to just spend a couple minutes with. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you all so much. It was fun. Do it again sometime.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. Hold on one moment. Hold on. We got a question. Hey. Okay. All right, Kevin Russell, thanks for chiming in. What's the best way to approach a mentor? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's an awesome question, because you do have that little bit of hesitation, and especially if somebody might be more senior than you or whatever it might be. But what I'd say first, Kevin, is first thing you want to find out is, are they open to it? So rather than going directly to hey, will you be my mentor? The question that I would ask to start off would be, have you ever considered, or are you a mentor for somebody else? And then, of course, depending on that answer is the follow-up question. If the answer to that is, yes, I've mentored folks in the past, would you be open to, because I, think highly of you and see that you've been successful and value your opinions and your perspective? And would you be open to maybe taking on another mentee or another apprentice, whatever it might be, just to really help develop and bring my career forward? And then, of course, if the answer to that is no, or hey, I'm too booked up, I can't take on somebody else, the next question I would say is, well, do you recommend anyone else? Who is one of your mentors, or who is somebody you've mentored that might be open, that has a similar type of view or perspective that I could get to know?
All right. That is awesome. Thanks for the question, Kevin. And thank you again, Tom. You have been watching Can We Talk? Actually, you know what? Before we close, I've got to ask you, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You could email me. It's going to be tough, but it's tom.lamendola@figmarketing.com. Of course, go ahead and hit me up on LinkedIn at Tom Lamendola, and be happy to get back with you and forge a relationship.
Right. And what industry do you need they have to be to get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah, sure. So if you're looking to work with FIG, we work with independent licensed financial professionals. So that's investment advisors, registered representatives, or insurance agents. But, just in the spirit of this conversation, leadership, if you have any questions like the one Kevin had or anything like that, please feel free to hit me up. Always happy to give some advice where I can. Except if you're my wife or my kids, you probably don't listen to me. So anyway.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing having you on. Lawrence, did you have anything else to say before
No,
we?
I'm just, it's this evening and this day has landed very, very well for me. So
I
thank you.
know. But Tom, I wanted to ask, is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to any advice you wanted to just give someone?
Yeah,
We're
no, I
good.
think we hit the big keys as
All
far
right,
as
awesome.
what I think about. So no, I appreciate that for sure. But thanks again for having me.
Awesome. So welcome. Well, you have been watching Can We Talk Executive Conversations with Tamiko Drummond and
Lawrence Henderson, y'all. Until next time, be well, take care of each other, and we'll see you soon.
bye.